Even as markets get hammered, which takes precious metals with them, gold tends to be the one metal that suffers the less. And I think that is why our Treasury Secretary feels the way he does about it. We're going to share his words, and it will shock you as to what he says about himself in this video as we explore. It is amazing to see the movement of the markets in general. They are getting pummeled because of the fear of tariffs that are now in effect. And now with China retaliating, well, it's causing a lot of problem. People tend to run to the safety of this cash in these times. A market drop, and this is something that has proven itself time and time again. There's nothing new under the sun, that's for sure. It's ironic that gold tends to shine like the sun, and of course there's a lot of folklore that surround that throughout the centuries. But what is amazing about gold is its intrinsic properties. And I'm talking about properties that have stood the test of time, that have proven themselves in history. And I think what's remarkable is what our Treasury Secretary has said about that. And I'm going to share his words, as shared with me by Alan Gold, that gives us some foresight and insight as to what this metal is all about. This comes from a recent interview with Tucker Carlson. But before we get to there, I want to remind you about channel sponsor, Summit Metals. Now, at a time when there's a dip, it's a good time to consider making a purchase if your budget allows. And I have bought from Summit Metals. I actually have an order on the way from them that includes gold as well. But it's when there's a dip and there's an opportunity, such as the one I took with this 1908 Satan Gons uncirculated coin, I got that thing for practically spot today. I think that likely gold prices are going to recover from their losses that we've been seeing over the past couple of days here. That's just par for the course. Whenever you purchase precious metals, you got to understand there's going to be market volatility. There's less volatility, though, with gold, and I think that that is one of the reasons why I've made a marked decision to shift more so into gold starting in 2017. And I'm not looking back with regards to that decision, for sure. I still believe in silver, but it's a little different. It's for me now as far as the amount that I have compared to gold, and in terms of the conservative approach by having gold in your possession, because you tend to there's less volatility in those types of markets, and central banks hold them. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what central banks feel about gold here as well. But first, let's listen to what Tucker Carlson interview with Scott Bessent, our Treasury Secretary, about gold.
Why is gold moving around the world in such huge quantities right now?
Well, a couple of things. It's moving physically. It's moving because of potential tariffs here. So it was unclear whether we were going to exempt gold from tariffs, which I believe we have. So there was a big move out of vaults in Switzerland, out of vaults in London to get it into New York. And look, that there are a lot of different stores of value over time. Bitcoin's becoming a store of value. Gold has historically been a store of value. I think what's interesting is, where do we see the gold demand coming from? A huge amount is from China.
Yes.
Where, as I said, they're in the middle of an economic recession/depression. People don't trust the Chinese currency because they have capital controls. There are 1.4 billion Chinese who all want to get their money out, and they won't let them. They will let them buy gold.
So that's a response, you think. But it's just, do you find it interesting that even now, 2025, when everything is abstract and digital, that gold is still widely believed globally to be a reliable store of value?
I think that gold has a lot of history going with it.
Yeah.
That a friend of mine's grandmother, during Russia had a financial crisis in '98. Then they had a big inflation, and a friend of mine's grandmother went out and bought 18 bicycles and put them in her apartment, and that was her store of value.
Yes. So how'd she do on the bike investment?
Great. Great. I wish I did that well. So, but that, look, yeah, gold also has other applications, a lot of applications, jewelry in India, but it's something that historically people have all agreed on. And gold can't have a fiscal problem. Gold cannot have a gigantic budget deficit. Gold cannot have a war. So just the fact that it is this isolated thing makes it very interesting. And the fact that the entire global trading system, until Richard Nixon took us off, was tied to gold.
So you're not anti-gold?
Oh, no. When I had my fund, I think people might have called me a gold bug.
There you have it. From his own lips, gold bug. You know, and it's amazing because central banks around the world, they feel the same way for the most part. The Dutch central bank refers to gold as the anchor of trust. The Bundesbank, the central bank of Germany, also speaks very highly of gold. And of course, we know what's going on there. And they repatriated some of their gold some time ago. And there has been a lot of talk about gold by these central banks around the world. They've been accumulating it at a record pace since 2022. And there's no sign of it slowing down anytime soon. I think Scott Bessent understands this, and of course, it makes you understand, maybe realize that there a lot more to the repatriation of gold than meets the eye. Now that we know that it's not going to be under tariffs, will some of that gold be gobbled up with the sovereign wealth fund that's coming? Well, we don't know that, at least from this clip. But thanks again to Alan Gold for sending it to me. But what about our central bank? Well, our central bank leaders, the head of the central bank, well, they really don't care about gold, it seems, and they don't really own it either. It's the Treasury that owns the gold. The central bank, the Federal Reserve, has gold certificates, which really are just a promissory note, essentially, towards the gold. But dating back to 2011, there was a very famous interview that Ron Paul gave to Ben Bernanke, the former head of the Fed. And, basically he believes it's just a commodity, does not see it as money, just sees it as something that's, valuable, but nothing other than that. Well, if central banks didn't hold gold, well, there's the reason why they hold gold, because of its value. Its value over the long course of time. It's extremely powerful. And of course, here in the United States, we have got we're really sheltered a lot by the strength of the dollar. That dollar strength is part of what has caused gold's price to fall in recent days here dramatically. Everybody panics and they run to the safety of the dollar. But in reality, the ultimate safety is gold, the anchor of trust, for sure. And I think the more people that realize that, the better off we're going to be. That's why I'm encouraging you to be your own central bank, to have gold in your possession. And of course, with the Treasury Secretary saying that he is a gold bug, I think that tells you a lot of what you need to know about what could be coming down the road. We don't know for sure, but nonetheless, he probably owns some gold in the physical form himself. Now, he did make the reference to bicycles with his particular example, and even though that's a little bit off from what gold is, I think it tells you something. It's something tangible. It's something that can protect in times of need, especially if they didn't have gold. Nonetheless, we know another example, and I've talked about this before, about the former U.S. Mint Director, Edmund C. Moy, probably one of the better mint directors the United States Mint has ever had. Well, his parents, I believe, or grandparents, came from China at a time when there was great turmoil, after the rape of Nanking and the like. And what got them out of that danger was being able to have gold in their possession, to be able to buy their way out of the country. And so that just goes to show you how it can literally save your life in some of those cases. And so, when you think about gold and the price that it is and how it fluctuates, especially in these times, it doesn't make sense for a lot of people for the price to drop whenever there's economic turmoil, what we're seeing right now. But in a sense, this is part of an economic shock, a little bit of a crash. And on the wake of that, the commodities are going to be hit. And sadly, in this case, gold and especially silver is acting like a commodity during these crashes. But when people come to their senses, they realize, over the long term, from economic uncertainty and instability, gold and silver have proven themselves time and time again to be that store of wealth. So I think that's kind of the lesson here. And it's very interesting. We can garner all we can out of what the policies are going to be for the United States based off of the Secretary Bessent admitting that he's a gold bug. But in reality, we really don't know. However, what we do know is that gold is the ultimate store of value no matter what the policy is. No matter what anybody says, history is the guide. And that history dates far back and far longer than the history of these United States, even though these United States, under the Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, means that gold and silver indeed are money. And of course, we know that long before the United States was ever a thing, they have been transacted as money for thousands of years. So there you have it. Thanks again to Alan Gold for sending this along to me. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section below about our Treasury Secretary and his thoughts on gold. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.